have quorum. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Beacon City School District Board meeting to order, September 12th, 2022. Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Vicky, roll call. Delayed.
Mr. Galloway?
Excused.
Here.
Here.
Mr. Sang?
Here.
Mr. White?
Delayed.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Ms. Stadler?
Here. Here. Thank you. Matt, would you review the fire exits, please?
The exits are in the back of the LGI.
Thank you. We're going to start with open to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a public statement? Jamie, please come to the podium. Yep. Please state your name, and you have, I don't know if you read the public comment policy, but you have 4 minutes.
Thanks very much. My name is Jamie Mulligan. Thank you for being here tonight and for all of your work on the board. That's much appreciated. I'm here tonight to ask you to consider a proposal to change the name of the early October holiday from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. This is a change that has been made in many school districts around the country, and I believe it is wise for us to consider it here and now. I believe that proposal would go through several steps, the first of which would be the collection of additional public comments. So if there is a way that we can put that proposal out to the public and ask people to contribute their public comments either through this forum or another one, I am happy to offer my services as a volunteer to help manage, distribute, gain momentum, etc. for such a proposal. I did speak with Matt about this at a diversity committee meeting quite some time ago. He confirmed that a board vote was all that was required to make this change. We're not taking away or adding any holidays to the schedule. We're simply changing the name of one of them. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Erin, did you have a comment? Did you want to?
Public comment?
Okay, because I would move that if you wanted to talk about any PTI stuff or anything, I would move it to.
I'm not on the board this year, but thank you.
Great. Okay. Thanks.
It's a big smile.
Okay, great. Are there any other public comments? Seeing none. In terms of Jamie's comment, if the board is willing, I would like to put that on for discussion on new business at the next board meeting. Okay. Sure.
That's fine by me.
Okay.
Second.
Great. Will do. Thanks, Jamie.
Those motion.
So next we have our workshop. We're going to hear from our superintendent, Matt Landahl.
Thanks. So our goal tonight, or my goal tonight, is to just talk about the board goals and share the language of the board goals from the previous few years. I don't, Meredith, I can't remember if we're focused on readopting them tonight or if that's in the future, but
Yeah.
so we're going to share just some quick thoughts about the board goals tonight. Share also about our thoughts about future board meetings and how they'll support the work of the board goals. And then just a little briefly about strategic planning, how that's going to really support this work as well. So I'm just going to jump into the board goals. On some of the board goals, I have just some example deliverables for them, but we have an excellence goal. I'm not going to read every goal out loud, but this one is really focused on the instructional side of what we do. And so, we are, and this is work that's ongoing and kind of covers several years. But some of the deliverables that we have teachers and administrators working on are curriculum maps that started in earnest this summer and will be worked on throughout the year, professional development plan that supports all this work. And then really heard you all loud and clear from last year to have much more data focus to our meetings. So we have several different data sharing workshops planned for this school year too. The next goal is our equity goal, or the board's equity goal. So what deliverables we have in mind for this year is to get a district equity policy. We've spent the last couple of years going through the entire policy book. A few years ago, we did a huge overhaul of the code of conduct, and a big one left for us to work on is to establish a district equity policy. I know Saggy's thoughts for the diversity work, or the diversity equity working group that she'll be working with this year, is to do some legwork on developing that policy and then bring it to a board policy committee for potential adoption, continuation of the equity report card and fleshing that out even more, and then professional development that really supports this work as well. The culture of care. So we have a few things happening this year. So in terms of deliverables, when I'm talking about deliverables tonight, I'm talking about things that we'll be talking about in board meetings. So deliverables to the board on this is, so this year, just a reminder, we have a full-time guidance counselor that's just solely focused on restorative practices and mediation at the high school. That's the first time we've ever had that. We also have the title is a youth aid position supporting that work at the high school. We're very excited about the positive disruption that this position or these positions will have at the high school. But part of our work as a board and superintendent is to really evaluate the effectiveness of that this year. As you may remember, we are using federal funds for this year, so it's right now a one-year position. We really want to evaluate this as something that we do with the board. But we really feel that it strongly supports the culture of care goal. Another part is evaluation of social emotional work at the elementary level. You may remember we also have a one-year position, a teacher on special assignment, focus on social emotional curriculum development, professional development, and just all-around support at the elementary level. Dina Morrow has that position. I should have mentioned Michelle Pohamus has the guidance position at the high school, and Jihaji Manderson has the youth aid position at the high school. So the work at the elementary level is working on some curriculum development in this realm, also working on supporting the use of responsive classroom across the district, working in specific classrooms that need support, also working with a lot of our teaching assistants and aides too, because they work with our kids very directly and they need support as well. So these three other board goals, I also, for fiscal, we again want to have an open and thorough budget process this upcoming year. For communication, we're trying, last year we started the Bulldog Bulletin. This year we're trying renewed and more energetic effort in the social media realm. So you're already probably seeing some of our schools doing more on social media. Our goal is to have all of our schools doing more on social media this fall. And yours truly is more involved in social media as well. And so that's a part of our communication piece, and also just sharing out both things for families and students to know, but also the wonderful stuff that's happening in the district. So that's part of our communication plan, and also keeping the website as updated and clear as possible. And then sustainability. So we have multiple things we're working on with this. One is the curriculum piece. Another is specifically with transportation and talking about developing a timeline for electric vehicles, electric buses in the district. And then lastly, the board approved our work with a grant-funded consultant last spring. So Jamie McDonald's been working with staff and me over the past several months to develop a report and some action steps. And so we want that to be part of this as well. And then I just wanted to, this is just like the first half of the board meetings for the year, but we've been really working as a team to come up with some ideas where the board workshops really make sense in how they link to the board goals. And so this is just kind of the first half of those meetings. The second half of the year is a lot of budget workshops, and so I didn't want to list that all up, but there may be workshops we want to add to the second part of the year. So this is totally a draft, and we may have to make a couple changes here or there based on who's available to help us with presentations. But we wanted to just lay out more of a data focus, more of a focus in board workshops on board goals. So, I won't go into each one in great detail, but we had state testing really return in earnest last year, so we wanted to provide a data review of that at the next board meeting. Our new assistant superintendent in Pupil Personnel Services wanted to provide an update to the board just on sort of the current state of the program. On October 24th, we wanted to provide just a general sustainability update with Jamie, if he's available, and also with our architects from Tetra Tech and our facilities folks, Jesse and Perry. So November 7th, we want to come back to instructional data and look at our benchmarks from across the district. November 21st, we're starting a series of the 6 school presentations. Those will go through February. But I think our thought right now is to have one school present at a time at a board meeting, get a little bit deeper with each school, have them still share all the really cool things that are happening in their school, but also ask the principals to get into their data a little bit more in those presentations. December 12th, we're going to have a lot of updating with I can never say this, with the strategic planning process. So I'll talk about that a little bit more at the next slide, but there will be a very specific update then because we'll be working this fall on finalizing these initial steps. And then when we kind of turn into 2023, we'll still be continuing with school presentations, but also, start the budget process with the budget overview. So, this is just our attempt to create more of a plan this year for workshops, be much more intentional, and really tie the workshops to board goals. So kind of thinking about the second half of the year, and I already sort of mentioned this, in some of those meetings, we want to really be talking with the board about the culture of care and how well these positions that we have added to the district, how well they have been at supporting teachers and students. So we want that and many other things to be part of the budget process and be data focused and results oriented. So obviously we're open, and it doesn't all have to be tonight, but we're open to suggestions for future board meetings and workshops. We're happy to change things or add things. But like I said, we wanted to be a lot more intentional and thought out this year for the board meetings. The thing I didn't put on here, but starting on November 21st, we have 3 honors and commendation ceremonies that we'd like to do. So we're going to be actually in the next few weeks putting it out to the community and then reminding folks to nominate staff, teachers, students for board commendations and honors. So we want to, on the 21st, we have a meeting at the end of one in March and then one in June where we want to come together like at 6:15 or 6:30, gather in the theater and honor all of the successes, both individual group successes that we have in the district, from our pre-K students through our seniors and all of our staff. So lastly, some of this is just kind of a work in progress because the strategic planning is a work in progress. We have 2 big work days coming up in October, one at the beginning of October and one at the end of October, where folks on the team are going to be gathering with, you met Gabby and Phoebe at the last board meeting. And we're really going to be trying to really flesh out action plans and really try to finalize the strategic planning. You saw already that Gabby and Phoebe and all of us are trying to make sure the board goals are really authentically tied together with the strategic plan and with all the information that came from that survey we did last spring. So we're really excited to finalize that in the coming months. And then we're also excited about the part of the strategic planning will be something on the website that will really be clear to the public about what we're doing and what we're planning to do for the future. So that is still all coming. So if we want to go back to the board goals, I guess what I'm saying tonight is we feel really good about the board goals in terms of the language. What we'd really like to do over the next several months, both through strategic planning and through our plans for the workshops at the board meeting, to really flesh out what we're doing, try to make this work more visible to the community, and more results oriented and more data focused. So those are just my thoughts about the board goals. So I guess we'd love to have them readopted at some point this fall, but there's a lot more to come with this. So this is just the start. And I'm just kind of open up to questions. Yep.
Thank you, Matt. I still believe in the board goals. We set them up a while back, and we've tweaked them over the years. The plan that's coming up now with who is this? The ed element folks. Is that it is? So we came with the board goals. We went through planning, then we went through some more planning. Now it's Ed Elements plan. Can you explain a little bit about the evolution, how that, because we have previous plans already. Like, is this supposed to replace that plan? Is it supposed to evolve?
No, it's just sort of the 2.0. So 3.5 years ago, through PNW BOCES, we worked with Jonathan Costa. We did a big community input then, and we developed, district beliefs. We developed what we wanted to see in a graduate. It was a really good process. Right before the pandemic, we were gearing up to do like the 2.0, and then our goals and our actions became so much, more focused on, either delivering remote instruction or getting kids and staff in our building safely, and that sort of took over. So last year, really kind of, probably about this time last year, we started talking with Ed Elements, who we work with through at Dutchess BOCES COSER, on getting it going again. So all the work that we did 3 years ago is incorporated into our thinking now. And where we see Ed Elements helping us is making it more action-oriented, helping it be more visible to the community, helping us also be a little more task-oriented and things like that. So it's really just the next step for us. If everything was timed perfectly, we'd be like unveiling it tonight. But just with the way when we started this last year, it was always going to be sort of like in the fall. But and I think this is probably obvious, that doesn't mean we're waiting to do things until this winter. We have, a number of things that we're rolling out this fall that we'll be sharing in future board meetings.
Thank you. I have another question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you know when the report card will be fully available? I know I'm trying to access it, and I know some of the data sets look like this blank.
We put up everything we had, and then I'll go back and see where we are. Okay. We had a little transition with our team, and Bill used to be one of the point people on that, so we're kind of in a little bit of transition with that. But we'll make sure it's functional if there's parts that aren't.
And in the list of presentations, I did inquire an interest in seeing STEM or STEAM.
Right.
On that, is it something that can?
Yeah. So
fit in there,
on the state testing data review, I should have added a little bit to that. Sagrario is going to also do a lot of updating just on all the instructional work that we're focused on this year. So we'll be touching on all of that too. I should revise that. It's going to be more than just state testing data. We couldn't just come up here and talk about that.
Okay.
It's too dry. So we're also going to be talking about all of our goals for the year too, on the instructional side. So that would be like one time we talk about it. And then I think we always have a more substantive instructional conversation, usually February, March, just as we're getting the budget going, that part of the budget.
And we still don't have, for the readiness, college readiness, we still don't have information from the colleges themselves as to how our kids are doing, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's kind of that's unfortunate. I do want to make a comment that, out of the, while I'm very proud of all the college level courses that we offer through AP and DCC, it does seem like a lot of them are non-science based. There are quite a few of them there that are science based, but what I wanted to see was to see if, because I remember seeing an older data set that it seemed like the science-based ones seemed to have a much more diverse attendance, but I can't verify that this time
Right.
around.
Okay.
So just to make a comment on that.
I think, with our high school principal situation settled with Corey, I think he also, when he does his school presentation, we haven't figured out which school's going when. I think when he's up here, we should really get into like course offerings at the high school and, who's taking what and what's being offered, what could be offered. Like we obviously, I know board meetings have a formal side to them, but we really, when we're doing all those school presentations, we really want it to be a conversation too. Part of any school offering thing is we have to offer things that we think kids are going to take too. And so part of it is like we have to kind of build up for a class.
Yeah.
Right, and develop interest and also skill level and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's definite interest in expanding in that area too.
Yeah, I'm just concerned between. You're right. Building up the interest in the earlier grades is kind of what gives you maybe a foreshadowing of what our students would want in the future.
Right.
I'm looking at the job markets and seeing, where are the most deficits in terms of professions, and science is one of those professions that seem to be hurting a lot. So
Yeah.
No,
I mean, I do not go to conferences very often. In fact, it's probably been several years between them. But I went to a conference this summer with some folks on the team, and it was kind of about developing learners for this constantly changing world of ours. And a presenter really, I talked about this presenter a bit in my welcome back speech with all the staff a few weeks ago, but the presenter was really good. He was a superintendent in the Chicago area, and he was really talking about kind of what you're talking about, like what's really making kids college and career ready. So a few of my takeaways were, one of the things he said was there's really no difference between college and career readiness anymore. Like whether a student goes to college or not, they need the same skills, for a career than you do in college. Another thing he talked about was how math is, I know we all know this, but like math in high school especially is either, what's the word? Either like the sort of lifts students off for success, or it becomes a gatekeeper sort of course. So everything we can do to get students ready for that and not wait for high school is time well spent. Another thing he talked about was kids making decisions about who they are as students and what they want out of life in 4th and 5th grade, which scared me as a parent of a 5th grader, and and not sure what he's always thinking. But so those were some things. Also, and Anthony, this is something you've talked a lot about. He talked about students' involvement in 2 extracurriculars, 2 organized extracurriculars, whether they are a club, sport, drama, music. Like being involved in 2 increases your college/career success exponentially. So, so as a team, we're really trying to look at a bunch of things. We're trying to look at some of our math transitions, right? From like elementary to middle to high, like where are we kind of missing things there? We're trying to really beef up what we do with extracurriculars this year. I think we're already seeing more clubs and whatnot offered. And we're trying to look at, high school math, ways to support more students. But sorry for the speech.
No,
I'm passionate about this stuff too. And I think it's an exciting time, because we can really focus now. And, but I think we can bring some of the stuff where you're interested at the September 27th meeting, and then just looking at our board calendar, I think another time to talk about it might be when the high school comes, and maybe the middle school too, for their school presentations.
No, I didn't think you were lengthy. Thank you for your thoughts. I do appreciate that. I also think that being prepared for more than one career path helps for those that want to do a career switch too. So I do appreciate those thoughts. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Matt? I just had one question. Oh, I think Craig was moving. his mic.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you for this thinking of board workshops. These are important topics, and they're some of the things that we've been asking for, to spend some time looking at these exact issues. And I'm sure there's many more. There's never enough meetings to cover all the topics, but it's a good start. I like it.
Well, like I said, and thanks, Greg. Like I said, if there will be other things and we really want to hear them, I think what might help us sometimes is if we hear from the board as a whole, or if there's some process, you know what I mean? So we feel like we're fulfilling, what the board as a whole wants, right? So, but I think it helps us to plan too. I think we're much more in a planning phase this year, so that's exciting for us too.
What, I'm sorry, Matt. Yeah.
Oh, I just wondered, in terms of evaluating the social emotional learning TOSA and the restorative TOSA, how are you going to do that? Because those are sort of qualitative. I mean, there probably is some data that.
Well, at the high school level, it's going to be very, at least one data piece is we are going to be looking at, the behavioral data that we have. So, when there's an incident that requires some sort of an intervention, a log entry is made. And so we're going to be reviewing all of those and looking at how we're responding to them differently. Also just looking at, the number of different infractions of the code of conduct. So I think at the high school, it will be pretty data focused. At the elementary level, I think we could also look at the same thing there. The person is working in 4 buildings. I mean, they're smaller than the high school, but she is stretched across a lot of positions. So I think we probably want to look at a couple things. I think we probably want to survey teachers just to get feedback from them about how they feel that the position is working. Look at behavioral data at the elementary level, and then we'll probably do some thinking more about how we evaluate it. One other piece of this is we also are talking with the middle school based on what we learn from the high school and the elementary school about adding a position like this at the middle school as well. So for the next budget cycle, but we kind of wanted to see what works and what doesn't to then do at the middle school. But that's a little bit of work in progress. High school's pretty clear. Elementary's has some data clarity, maybe not as much as the high school, so we're probably looking at some qualitative too. Also just, responsive classroom is an intensive training. It's like a 4 to 5 day training. It's not just like read a book or read an article. It's a very involved training. A large number of our elementary teachers have done it over the last several summers. Not all of them have. So also looking at our implementation of responsive classroom, because it's not just like a quick, easy thing to implement. It requires a bit of time. So probably looking at responsive classroom implementation too.
Can I ask, is that training that can be extended to teachers' aides?
It can. They offer something different for teachers' aides. They offer more of like a 1-day thing. So we're either looking at sort of outsourcing that, or the person who's doing this job, we feel can do that as well.
Like
So one of the things we've been speaking with Dina about is really working with like our playground aides and our lunch aides, because they're with kids sometimes at the elementary level, the more challenging times. Again, saying that as a parent as well. And so that's part of her work, is to work with them. I mean, it's one of the parts I'm honestly really excited about is those folks are hard to do professional development with because their time is somewhat limited. But here we have someone on staff, who can be really flexible with her time too. So we're excited about that part too. Dina is trained in responsive classroom. She's done a few cycles of the training. She's not like a certified trainer, but she has a lot of experience in this area, so we're excited about that part of the job. I've heard that one loud and clear from a lot of different people, including, most importantly, aides themselves. Like they're really asking for a lot of support and training. It's not, they want more help with this, and so we want to provide it for them, and we've done some already, too. So
That's great.
I have two questions. The first is related to that, the responsive classroom, and then the more specifically about the restorative practice person at the high school. It would be great to know if there's some plan of helping students to develop the skills that they can implement some of these things on their own. So is it just happening where it's they're bringing students together and leading it, or is there any goal of bringing students along to becoming mediators themselves?
Oh, yeah. We already have some. We started developing at the high school some peer mediation leaders last year. And we have more on tap this year. The students, there was a lot of conflict at that age group last year. I think this was something that was seen across the country. I think it makes sense. Like, it was hard for all children over the last couple of years, but I think it hit high schoolers differently. And so the students really came to us. It was really, really beautiful to see, to be honest. And they came to us and said, we really want to be part of this. And so we started training them. Some staff trained some of them, and then we did some sort of outsourced training for some of the student leaders. So we want to do more of that this year. That's already happening as well. But we really see that as a key to this, what I'm calling like disrupting this positive disruption. So yeah. So thank you.
And then the other follow-up is when you said you would like to be hearing from the board as a whole, what's the mechanism that you want us to come to you with? Like what?
I don't know. I mean, maybe that's like a retreat thing. And
I think it's a good topic for the retreat because there's definitely, we all have our special reasons for being here, but we need to work as one. And so I think it would be a great topic. I think there actually might be a chapter on it in the How Not to Be a Terrible School Board Member book, which we should all be brushing up on before. But so, yeah, I think we need to figure out, I don't think we've ever formalized a process about that of like, that we have a process for, if you want something to be talked about, put on the agenda. And it's a little bit the same thing. I think of like, I'm saying this and everyone has their right to speak and during comments or whatever, but does it become a to-do thing for Matt is sort of I think the jump. Is that,
I think it's just, I didn't mean it in any sort of negative way. We took this as our way of attempting to address like a lot of the different feedback we got over last year, like this plan, even though I know it's just words right now on a screen. But if there's like a workshop type request, it would be helpful to have something where it's like we're hearing from the whole board, or that would just be helpful to me.
yeah. Does that make sense to you, Kristen?
Yeah, it does. I think that the piece that's missing is that we don't have a process. Like that's very clear around that. Yeah. So it's hard not to feel like, any attempts to communicate have always just been attempts to communicate. If there's a better way to do it, we should know it and have like clear steps in mind. So that would be great.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds like retreat.
Yeah. I'm talking to Mark Snyder on Wednesday.
Sounds good.
Are there any other questions for Matt? Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of a particular individual, and the board will return in about 45 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Anthony. Comments and questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 8-0. Reviewing the agenda, there are a couple of changes. And they are on the instructional personnel list, 14.01, they're highlighted. Are there any parent groups or student or school presentations? Seeing none, Dr. Landau will present his report.
This will be pretty quick. I just wanted to show a different way of, today was the 5th day of school. 2 weeks ago, we had all of our staff back pre-Labor Day. Very positive couple of days with our teachers and administrators and TAs and aides and all of our employees. And then we had a great first week of school last week. And so I just have some pictures. Some of these pictures we have been putting on social media, on our different feeds, but I just wanted to walk through just some of our classrooms and lots of happy people, little people, young people. We really had a great start. These were some of our 9th graders. We started the year with 9th graders having the building to themselves. We've done that for the last couple of years, and I think that is just a great way to get them started. There's some early library action, starting the day with a circle. That's a fifth grade class, 4th grade, I think 5th grade, which is an important part of our day. Library media at Forrestal. On Friday night, we had a really unique thing that we had 3 different games all playing within like 3 or 4 hours. So this is JV soccer. And then football. This is kind of before the sun went down, the lights went on, so this is the early part of the game. The crowd got much kind of thicker and bigger as the game wore on. We ended up having quite a few people there. Our cheer squad has a huge participation number this year, which is great. Our varsity volleyball team, that's an action shot I took. I see the ball in the air. About to go for the big spike. I did this just because I know it's hard to see, so I apologize about that. But I mentioned that part of our communication, we have a lot more going on social media. High school has an Instagram feed that's really going well and going strong. And I thought this was a cool thing. It was just the other day. It's just a list of like all the clubs that are already there for students to participate in. It was on their Instagram. So they're trying to really increase involvement and participation in all these activities. So they're really putting it out there because I think we've been hearing like I didn't hear about it. I didn't know it was happening. Like, when is it? And so Corey Dwyer and his team, they're just putting it out in as many different ways as possible. So I wanted to just highlight that, but it's not just the high school. We have a lot of different things going on social media, and then just a couple of additional items that we're really excited about. Mr. Dwyer is going to be putting out a survey tomorrow, and then I'll probably put it out to the whole community. We're looking to do something different this year, to have like a Friday night a month be a night dedicated to teens in the community and open up the high school for a wide variety of activities for our teenagers to have something to do. So like open gym, cooking classes, like, food, like, pizza, whatever, just like ways to come be together, to have maybe community volunteers help us run it. But we're really trying to find different outlets for our high school students. So we're really excited about that. Corey's been trying to put that together over the last few weeks, at least an initial plan. What we'll probably do is just a couple of nights in the fall, see how it goes, and then try to expand. We have a vaccine clinic this Thursday. That's going to be in the main entrance of the high school. This is just a little thing. I could have been cool and had a screenshot on this one, and I don't. But we'll put this out to the community, too. A great way to keep track of all of our sports schedules is the Our School app. So just go on your app store and download Our School and put Beacon City School District in there, and you will just have constantly updated and refreshed the Beacon City School District athletic schedule. So it's been a great start. We have a lot of things going on, a lot of positive classrooms. And last night we had hundreds of students and community members out at all those various sporting events last Friday, and it just went really beautifully. So we've had a great start. So that's what I want to share tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about that Thursday night.
Board comments. Kristen, and sorry, you're first on the list.
Side chatting, so you.
I know, but now we have it's going to be the same order every meeting. So
Oh, okay.
You're always going to be first.
Okay. I do not have any comments.
Thank you. Eunice.
No comment.
Alina.
No comments.
Anthony.
Yes, I have comments, sorry.
You distracted me, but now you.
No, I'm sorry. It could distract me if you want. Good evening. Following up on the topic of Career Ready, I wanted to inquire if a presentation to our students about civil service would be helpful. In speaking to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, it seems that applications for civil service is down. In speaking to a local elected official, it also seems that applications for civil service is generally down. Civil service exam is a required step in both post-college and non-college positions for state and local employment opportunities. There are exams that are popular, but I believe it will promote diversity if we can help educate all our students in the exam process. I also want to report that I will unfortunately be out of the country on December 27th due to work. I expect to be missing the next board meeting. If needed, I can provide my location to attend virtually. Thank you.
Thanks.
Policy meeting, I guess we got to reschedule, right?
Yeah, I was hoping to reschedule it.
Okay.
So we haven't really looked at like what we're working on for policy. Do you have a meeting scheduled with Matt?
Yeah, we were meeting with Anthony
This Friday.
Okay,
to map things out.
So maybe once you've mapped things out, we can work out the schedule from there. Okay. So
I just wanted to quickly respond. I love the idea of doing more education around civil service. We're seeing the same issues. So I'd like to work with my team and the folks at the high school and coming up with a plan. We do have, Anne Marie, correct me, I think we have a couple of recent grads that are jumping in, though, into some positions. What positions?
We have a couple in the teacher aide positions.
Yeah.
Fresh out.
Right. So some very recent grads, like a couple of months ago, are being employed by us. So we're excited about that. But I think it's a great idea, and numbers are down for us too. And so we'd love to do more to encourage folks. So we'll figure out a way we'll talk.
Well, this is something that's come up with the city as well. Well, I suggested to the city that we co-host some sort of workshop. And
Yeah.
maybe if one of these Friday night things could be a place to do it.
Could be, yeah. Or it could be through like a class that all the kids take, like a quick, thing, so they all kind of get the message, not just kids who come, but,
One for students and for parents as well.
I think there should be a community one,
because the students will get it from us, but if the parents is advocating to not do it or go to college, and because maybe they're not educated, they don't have not educated.
Just the knowledge.
The knowledge about the civil service
There are parents in the
positions and stuff like
community
that.
that maybe could take advantage of the exam as well. I mean, it's not something I ever knew about until I got on the school board.
Because that was like way before when students used to go into the vocational colleges, like those kind of weeded out a little bit because everything was 4 year. But now like those technical colleges and those kind of colleges are, it's not needed, but it's for a student to go to a 4 year college to do like psychology or something when they don't understand that there's other colleges that you can go and do like vet tech or do culinary or do, vocational schools, to do those things. But if we can have something for the students and for the parents, but definitely in the classroom, because if you're telling a student to come Because at first thought I was thinking, oh, like a career fair, and would you do it this? But then students don't know enough to go. So if you do it something where it's in one of their classes, or then
Or
you
if it's a fun night at the high school, they're not going to go in that room.
Right.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
want
Hey, I'm here to talk about an exam.
You're gonna need
Another
a
test.
job.
so
Okay, all
We
right.
were thinking more like celebrity chef at the.
so
That would definitely be better attended.
so
But the high school's working on a plan for some parent family university kind of
That would be a
things this
perfect
year. So they were going to do some things about like, just different topics that keep coming up. And so I'll talk to them about this. Could be an easy one to add, or we can collaborate with the city. But
yeah, just,
I would love to get more kids in the know.
so Alina, I appreciate your perspective. Just to build on that, the civil service is not just for in lieu of college positions. In fact, to work as an engineer or scientist for the Department of Environmental Conservation, you actually have to take the civil service test after your college degree to get that. So, I mean, there's civil service applies to pretty much almost all state jobs.
My lack of education, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Not
So-
knowing that
and-
I could do both.
And the diversity component, that the reason why I mentioned diversity is usually kids from families that have had civil service experience teach their kids that this is what you got to do. How many of those are from minority backgrounds? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I also, the two people that I know who have transitioned into working, I mean, I only look at this through the school district lens, but are women who wanted to be in a similar schedule as their kids. But any caregiver, I think, who, the people I knew had like jobs elsewhere. One had their own company, and then they, had a change in circumstances, and they ended up finding out about an opportunity and getting the job, then taking the test. And now they're kind of seeing this whole path for themselves. As their kids get older, they're not as worried about keeping that schedule, and now they can sort of rise up through the ranks within school districts. And it's such I think the more people know about it, the better it
yeah,
is.
we can help ourselves too while we're at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a selfish motive. Get more people.
Anthony?
No comments.
Craig?
Yeah, I see on the agenda tonight we're appointing some new teachers, and in the area of music. Looking forward to seeing some progress in that area. And another comment I'll make is about something from the Foundation for Beacon Schools, which has a program that got some funding from a new City of Beacon program, and it's relating to film production on subjects of historical interest locally, and involving students connecting with community resources. And we're looking forward to that. It's kind of a late jumpstart because the city didn't finalize their grants until kind of late in the calendar, and then all of a sudden school starts. But anyway, I know Saggy is familiar with the details of this, and everybody who's involved is trying to jump on it and get it moving. So, and other than that, congratulations, school's open, and we're back in action, and we don't have to wear masks again. So, I think it's time to knock on wood and hope that it all goes well. I don't either. I wear them sometimes.
So this was my older son's first year at Rombout, so it was my first year at Rombout as well. And I just wanted to say I did the school tour with him, and it was so great to see the energy of the kids and how excited they were. And I mean, I know they were nervous too, but the overall feeling was like excitement and readiness to be there. And the experience has been really positive so far, and I'm just really grateful to the teachers and staff there. This is, South Avenue was my only experience up until now, so it's been really great to have this whole new school and this whole new world opened to us. So I'm very excited about it, and so is my son. I also wanted to bring up that September is Hunger Action Month, And I just wanted to talk about a few things that are going on at the state level and the federal level regarding that. And it is something that we want to advocate for this year on the Parole Committee. There is legislation at the state level called the Universal School Meals Program Act and Healthy Meals, Healthy Kids Act to provide free school meals to all students. I think we're one of maybe a dozen states right now that are trying to pass legislation at the state level, and I think, don't quote me on it, but I think California and Maine both have, like they've figured out a way to do it. There is a task force on hunger, nutrition, and health, and they're an independent group, and they're basically advocating really hard to the Biden administration to bring back the free school meals for all students, and they're calling it a moral obligation, which I think is a very apt description. There's a White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health on September 29th, and they said there will be some announcements coming out of that. I'm not so optimistic that I think that they're going to announce free meals for all, but I am interested to see what comes out of that. I think that is all. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up, that there was a direct certification pilot program from the USDA, which automatically enrolls students on Medicaid for free meals to help avoid having to sign up. And I wasn't sure if you knew off the top of your head if that's something that we've tried to apply for.
We do that.
We did? Okay.
We get direct certification so that people don't have to fill out the application.
Oh, I had no idea. Is that new?
No.
So nobody has to be filling out the forms?
There's circumstances where you would need to fill out the form if you don't get a direct certification.
Okay, right, if you don't have Medicaid.
People that we get a direct cert from automatically get free Medicaid.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. That's it.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention a couple things. First, I wanted to extend my gratitude to Kelly Pology, who is no longer our board clerk. She was the board clerk for almost 15 years. Several of us on the board know that was a period of, there was a period in those 15 years of incredibly long meetings. There was one where actually the lights got turned out on us because we were here after midnight, and the lights go off at midnight.
It is like 1 o'clock.
So thank you, Kelly, for your work. And I wanted to welcome Vicki Jackson, our new board clerk, and we're excited to work with you and glad you're here. You guys may have noticed that the board docs looks a little bit different, and we're sort of tweaking it as we go. If you see something you like, let us know. If you see something that's missing that you liked from before, also let us know, and we'll continue to try to make it better. I want to remind everyone that next week is our retreat from 7 to 10 here in the LGI. Yes?
I had a question about the board docs. Would it be helpful for you to, if I put, or so, I don't know, it's, I guess, voluntary, but our member reports as annotations to our piece?
We're actually figuring out what the best is to do, because I think that there is a way that it gets transcribed, but words get jumbled and letters go missing, so it's not great. But if I can get that report from Mike, I can probably figure it out, because I'm taking notes and put in exactly what you said. Or we're going to take the YouTube video and snip it, like, if you want to hear what Anthony Zhang said, listen from here to here. If you want to hear what someone else said, you can listen from this minute to this minute. So we're working on it. We're going to try to make it the best we can.
Because I haven't been using the annotation feature in board docs. I just put it up there just to see if maybe that would also work. I'm more than happy to voluntarily write up what I said and put it on to make your job easier.
That's fine, too.
Okay.
Whatever you all decide to do, I'm just here for it.
Okay.
I don't know if we can expect every board member to do that, so if you want to do that, that's fine. But I think something that works for every board member is probably a better system to rely on. But we can talk about that at the retreat as well. So yeah, retreat next week. Everyone received their How Not to Be a Terrible School Board Member book. If you have a chance to look through that beforehand, that probably would be helpful. We are going to talk about, at the next meeting, the Nisba Proposals. Flora sent an email identifying ones she thought were of interest, but it'd be great to look through everything if there's something else you want to talk about. I don't want to, there's 41 or 42 altogether, so I don't want to go through all of them. But, you know, if there's something you want to talk about, please identify it. And the City of Beacon is doing a survey right now for the future of their community facilities, and I think that really will impact our students. And so I just wanted to make everyone aware of it. I think it takes about 20 minutes to do. It's on their website. Matt, I thought maybe it could go out with a superintendent blog as well.
When does it close? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I can.
It's on their website.
Yeah. I feel like it's like October 9th for some reason is in my head.
I have an update going out tomorrow, so.
Okay. Yeah, I think the more people that participate, the better.
Okay. Can I ask a quick question of the board? We've marched in the Spirit of Beacon Day parade in the past. And we don't need to figure it out here, but I just wanted to ask.
I'm out of town. Is there anyone who?
I won't be here.
I'm going to enjoy.
You're what?
I'm going to enjoy it.
You're just gonna enjoy it.
I worked the day before all day. So
Yeah.
What date is it?
The 25th.
Sunday.
Should be,
I'm around.
yeah, should be, I should be here.
around.
Okay, well, yeah, you guys can coordinate
Yeah,
if you
so-
feel that you're enough of a presence to do, I mean, you only need
Represent
3
the
people to
board.
carry a banner, so
Yeah.
it's up to you. But sorry, I can't make
I
it.
mean, of course, I will march down Main Street.
Regardless.
Sagrario and Heather are so excited for their first Spirit of Beacon.
Yeah.
So that's 30 right there.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe.
Anne Marie happens to be out of town that
Maybe I'll join
weekend.
you. I just,
What time is it?
You've probably marched in your fair share, I bet.
Is it at noon?
I have to rearrange a game that I'm coaching or something, but
they're like, if you want
anyway.
to get seats.
Well, I might be rolling back in.
All right, I will work with Vicky and
Send an email with the details
Okay.
and we can see. Okay.
Oh, I'm sure they're great.
New business. Matt, thank you for your summary of the board goals and some metrics that we're going to be looking at this year around them. Does anyone have any comments or questions about the board goals that they'd like to make?
When we've done this before with the strategic plan, like I was looking at one of the goals related to culture of care. But having lived through many of these discussions, I'm hesitant to even talk about any kind of rewording. But I know that we have these sort of, there's a goal, and then what are the things underneath it? The like kind of, what do we call it?
Metrics
The metrics, yeah. I don't think it would fall under a metric.
or like actionable items?
Yeah, I think so. I'll just tell you what I'm thinking about, and I'm fine with keeping it the way it is. I just think that that will foster a culture of care. I think the one thing I don't have any other wording for it, so I apologize, but I think that what's missing from this is like the idea of students feeling a responsibility to one another in order to create that learning, giving them the tools to create that culture.
You mean, so right now it's sort of like the umbrella will create the culture and there's no student accountability or
Right, like the adults will handle it.
Well, it's like I just feel like maybe foster is a bit wishy-washy, but I don't have anything else, and I do think that it's like kind of something that I feel like the whole goal is that we're creating skills that students can take forward with them, and I feel like this is sort of feels
like it's not a skill.
I think that if we're looking at it from a board perspective, foster's okay, but if it's looking at it from a district or a building or something like a more of an advocacy piece for culture of care, like you're talking about students acquiring and then, right? So it's not like we're going to have actionable steps for our goals. It's more of a district goal, I would say, to build that culture of care. We're saying we support a district goal to get a little bit more granular with that piece.
Well, the strategic plan, which will, I think, live side by side with our goals,
Yeah.
is all about the ideal graduate and really does talk about like the qualities that we're looking for our graduates to have
Right.
as they leave. So I feel like I do feel like that is a really strong part of the strategic
Right.
plan and the pillars and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want to change the board goal, but I guess what I want to put into our minds to think about them maybe with the strategic plan, and I'll just give an example to kind of talk about it. And I think it's like a hard thing to get at, so it's just something I came in with, and I don't really, it's not, I really apologize for not having it better formed. I think when you do, this almost reminds me of that PBIS kind of, there's like a thing of like culture of care, and we do these signs and we make sure everybody like gets a little sticker and that sort of stuff. And I'm not belittling that. I think that there's definitely an importance in it. But I think, you know, one thing I've heard from like in listening to kids over the years is, you know, listening to my kids with their friends is sometimes adults have an eye on these performative aspects of kindness. And sometimes a kid winning that sticker is not being nice to their peers. But it's like somebody has figured out how to get noticed for things. And I think what we're trying to get underneath with our culture of care is like really feeling responsible for others in your community. And that whether it's rewarded or not, like that you care about, that you feel responsible for the others in your community, that they feel safe, that they feel supported, that they're in the right environment. And I don't know, like, I guess it's not, it doesn't really change in the goal. I guess foster is the only word that we have. I just feel like
I see what you mean, and I think it would take like a whole upheaval rewording, which I do not have in me tonight.
No, I don't want to have it.
I'm just looking at the pillars that we're going to spend the next month in October kind of fleshing out. I'm not going to read them all, but under academic excellence, one of the things it talks about is student voice and experience, like using instructional strategies that center student voice and experience. Under community engagement and involvement, it talks about increasing opportunities for student leadership. Like, I know it's not exactly getting at what you're saying, but like I think I think there's going to be a lot of like good fleshing out of this stuff in the next month to 6 weeks, and I want to come back like in that meeting in December and say this is what we've come up with. But like there is some real student-centered language that is getting a little bit at what you're saying. I'm not saying it's directly.
No, and I apologize for not having it. But so the reason why I was looking at the goals tonight, I've been hearing these things for a while. I never know how to present them. Then like, and this is a one night we talk about the goals, but then it is just normal when these presentations happen that they, you know, we're told like, and we're doing this and we're doing this. It's hard to explain initiatives,
Right.
you know, without showing like actual, or explain that you're doing something without showing what you're doing. So I get the trick with it, but I can tell you one of the big things in the corporate culture world that's coming as the result of the Great Resignation is this idea of, is the culture in your company where people are for each other? And so that idea of like, you're not like you're not competing against each other. You're kind of, you're for the success of somebody who's working with you. You're looking for ways to be supportive of them and notice what's going on. And I feel like that just is kind of been present in my mind about this goal for a while, because it's not a bad goal, and I agree with you. I don't have it in me to like wordsmith tonight. But I also feel like I don't want a whole another year to go by without thinking about how we are actually doing that.
We also don't need to reconfirm these tonight.
Right.
We could certainly, I can put it on new business in a month, or, you know, once we have the strategic planning work done.
Yeah, I think this, you know, I'm not trying to overthink this. I think the goals as they're written right now help us with the strategic planning over the next couple of months, but like we're really working with this year, and we're not stuck on anything. And I mean, I really love that quote, like, are we for each other? That's really strong. And
I think it's a psychologist organizational psychologist from UPenn named Adam Grant. He's very well known. He's like
right.
sort of rent a speaker. He's on a lot of things, but I'll see what I can find about what he's written about that, because that's kind of one of the results.
But is it also how you interpret it, your own self? Like, you're thinking about changing it, but I guess what your perception of culture of care is could be different from how I take it, and what I think about the culture, the culture of care. And just, my thought is kind of like what the last quote that you just said, as far as just, I'm thinking it when our students leave here to be better citizens.
Right.
When they leave out of here to be better people to one another, to their community, when they're working, understanding the differences that we see amongst us, because there are so many now in this generation, so many differences. So there's that culture of just care and understanding that even if we have different opinions or different thoughts, there's that understanding that you have doesn't make you less than because your thought is different than mine, or there's no need to argue because your thought is different than mine. So I'm just wondering if we end up changing. Do we change it? Do we put a subset? Because how you interpret that could be different from how I interpret it,
Yeah. Yeah, where it's kind of coming from is this idea that when we get presentations, a lot of times they're framed around the board goals. And what's brought to us is these initiatives that are done to sort of capture this idea of care. And I think the tricky part is when you're really in a culture of care, like oftentimes what you're doing to support another student or each other, or like often isn't something that's rewarded. It's the harder thing to do. And so creating people who can't, and again, like it's way, you're right, it's open to a lot of interpretations, but I guess like it's more of a challenge of how do we come up with metrics to,
Measure if we're teaching empathy.
right, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there are places that have tried to do some of this. It gets very tricky, right? And it gets a little subjective, but like small acts of kindness are incredibly important. They're hard to measure. And I'm not just focusing on this one thing, but since the verbiage is in one of our pillars, like student leadership and finding ways to expand student voice and leadership, I feel is something. I mean, it's hard to measure leadership too, but opportunities for leadership is something we could measure, especially if it's in this realm. I'm thinking back to your question when I was up there before, and when we had last year, like I said, there was some more conflict issues at the high school, or probably everywhere in society. And we had a number of students that were like, we want to be a part of fixing this, right? And the high school administration, instead of blocking, was like,
Right.
let's do this, and how many more do you want, and what friends do you want involved? And that's expanding more this year. I don't know where I'm going at, but it's like student involvement and stuff like that is something we can kind of wrap our arms around. I know it's not exactly what you're saying.
No, it is
but
though,
it's
because
part
I
of it.
think it is, that's the thing is like we often hear these from the perspective of adults, and there's no way to really change that at the elementary level. But I mean, even if there was like an essay that kids could do, or a question where, just a simple question they could do in class, where's something that you made a choice and it was hard, and you helped somebody else out and it didn't get seen, or it wasn't the popular thing to do, or something like that. And then if they knew that that was highlighted in some way and that was celebrated, I think that creates a little bit more of a shift. So that's maybe at a younger age, but having those students, I was going to ask that and I didn't know, because they're dealing with something more sensitive like the mediation thing. But if those students were able to present like what they've learned from this experience, I think that would be really powerful. And if those students could go to younger grades and say, this is what we've learned about like solving a problem or conflict resolution. I think kids definitely listen to things from older kids. And I guess it goes back to what you are saying, which is, I feel like if it's coming up from the students a little bit more, and they see that they have like agency, and it's not about getting a reward for it, but rather developing something themselves and shaping the environment they're in, then I guess that's like, we don't have to change the goal, but I think the way that we learn about what we're doing to foster that environment would be helpful.
Restorative Practices has that built in. They do community circles, which is students kind of developing like that community as to talking and advocating for what they feel is needed for each individual, and they kind of express that. And that happens more in the classroom and in unstructured settings, whereas if you go to a restorative circle, that's really that mediation piece because there was a conflict. And then the stakeholders are kind of buying in to get that other person's perception. So I think the restorative practices has that kind of built in. It's just kind of how do you expand that, right? I mean, elementary kids do it during morning meeting, right? The teachers might facilitate that piece. Then there's kids that do that at lunchtime when they're at the lunch table and they're having that informal conversation because they're taking that skill that they learned in that structured setting and bringing it to that unstructured setting.
Right.
And that's really what we want to see is how is that happening, right?
Right. I would love it if there's a way of capturing
how are we
that.
observing that piece? And,
We do
and
celebrate
stuff.
some of that with
Right.
with I know at the middle school, and I believe here when teachers nominate students for just doing random acts of kindness.
Right.
I know they do it at the middle school, and they do it here when you get some kind of like certificate or something, but it's random. Like a student is it's very like, oh, like they don't even know like they're being watched in a sense of doing something. So rather it's at the cafeteria having that table with friends, someone's overhearing like a conversation, like wow, like so in some ways we do it, but
It could grow.
it could grow for sure.
Just going to that is that's what like a lot of it is that peer recognition, right? And
the peer
having that, and
recognition
that's that granular piece that could take place at the buildings as to what does that peer recognition look like? Peers recognize good teaching, right? A
Right.
teacher recognizing good teaching and
Yes.
saying, hey, can I
Yes.
come visit your classroom? Or a student recognizing, hey, you know what? That was really nice that you offered to carry that person's trumpet.
Right.
Because they had their books or stopping because they dropped it, right? And then someone dropping saying, hey, I saw someone doing this. So that peer recognition
Right.
piece is a little bit more valuable than that adult
Yes.
saying, hey, good job to the student.
Right.
piece.
I think that that's true. And I think if there's a way that we can amplify those things so that they rise up more, then it's not top down, it's like coming from each other.
And I
that's-
think like, and I'm just going back to your earlier comment about PBIS, and I know you
Yeah.
weren't demising it or
No, yeah, it just,
is it's kind of morphed into more of that where they're giving that opportunity to say, hey, here's a ticket for like a peer saying, hey,
right,
give a ticket to someone that you saw do something well, and then you'd be able to tell us about it. And then they bring it into an academic part as to, can you write a little bit about that and
Right.
say,
Yeah.
you know, so we could put that on the wall of the
Right.
the cultural care wall or something, and
Right.
and so then the students are owning it type of thing. And I think that's where PBIS is going, right? They have now it's like a credit card kids have, or if districts want to purchase it, they could have a credit card. So they're teaching financial literacy, you know, and there's communication pieces with the parents and stuff. So it's like, you know, I think that there's ways that each teacher, each building, and each district could kind of, you know,
Right.
set that up.
yeah. I
There's
think
one-
that there's,
Sorry, there is one word in the goal that I feel like would change it, is if, when, at the end where it says, you know, a safe and supportive emotional environment that ensures the wellness of all members. If it said that values the wellness of all members, it sort of like brings the responsibility around to everyone
Yeah.
more, and I think that does make it a stronger statement.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think that there, like, I guess that does make it a stronger statement. That shifts it significantly, and also, and this doesn't have to be in the goal at all, but I do think that really caring about each other takes courage, and I think that that's also like kind of the more radical aspect of this that I feel like we miss when we take a broad step. So like what you're talking about, Anthony, with that idea of like peers recognizing it and knowing when somebody, like I will definitely hear from my kids when they say like, oh, even like somebody they might not like does something and they're like, I really liked what they did with that today. Like, and I feel like they, you know, it sort of creates a little bit more of like respect.
It's like they're growing and maturing. They get to see
Yeah.
past the.
Yeah, like that person's never going to get a
Right.
award for that, but they did this good thing and I saw it, and so if there was a mechanism to capture it, but I think values the wellness is really, that does change it significant for me. I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
How does everyone else feel about that?
Totally agree.
Sure, I support that.
Okay, so should we change that word and what did we end up calling it? Reconfirm our board goals?
Yes.
Okay, so can I have a motion to amend our board goals so that the culture of care reads, the BCSD will foster a culture of care dedicated to maintaining a safe and supportive emotional environment that values the wellness of all members of the school community.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Are there any other comments or questions about it? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm all opposed? I'm also in favor, passes 8-0. And can I have a motion then to reconfirm our board goals?
So moved.
Second.
Is
Second.
that Craig and second
Yeah.
Kristen? Sorry.
I was going to give somebody else a chance.
Are there any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor, passes 8-0. Great, thank you. That was also just a really great discussion. Thanks, everyone. The consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Are there any items that any board members would like to have pulled from the consent agenda? Can I have a motion to approve 11.01 through 16.02?
So moved.
Anthony,
Second.
second from Eunice. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor, passes 8-0. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Anthony, Flora, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 8-0. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Let's try.
You distract me.